Howdy everyone, I am Alex the Anteater and I want you to join me on a journey. A great journey. Specifically, my journey through my absolute favourite gaming franchise of all time, Halo. The Halo series has defined my entire gaming lifestyle. It was a series that showed me how incredible video games can truly be and opened up a whole new world of gaming. To say Halo has had an influence on my life is putting it mildly. So, this video will act as a review / retrospective of the entire series as a whole, but through my own experience. I'll be talking about each game in order I played them, and fair warning, I experienced these games in quite an odd order. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content in the future. Now, let's begin. The first game I ever played in the Halo series may not be the most conventional way to introduce someone to the franchise, that being the Ensemble Studios developed RTS Halo Wars. Halo Wars first released back in 2009, just as I was getting into Xbox. I got a 360 and a few games and I was starting to get into gaming properly. Then one day I went over to my mate's house and he loaded up a demo for this game called Halo Wars. Now, I had heard of Halo before, but I never paid much attention to the franchise. I had no idea what the games were like, so for this game to be my initial introduction to the series was probably not the best. Nevertheless, I loved this game.
Heresy! Remove this filth! Take cover!
I got my own copy quickly after and played through the campaign, which I loved. Constructing bases and building up your army of badass marines ready to fight the threat of the Covenant was compelling stuff. The main thing I took away from this game was the name of all the units. This game introduced me to iconic vehicles like the Warthog, Scorpion, Banshee and other vehicles exclusive to this game which I desperately wish we could drive in the mainline Halo series. I also got my introduction to the badass Spartans and how incredibly tough these guys were. A great foreshadowing for me to play as the ultimate badass later on, the Master Chief. I loved the Covenant. I thought they were a great alien threat to a diverse unit and an interesting dynamic by seeing the hierarchy of how they operated, with the Prophet as the great religious leader. It sparked my love of the franchise, and for that I can't help but love this game and feel extremely nostalgic every time I play it. I would spend hours playing skirmish matches against AI enemies, learning the ropes of the game before eventually dipping my toe into the multiplayer. Fun fact, this was the first game I ever played an online match on. I got my ass kicked for sure, but I still remember that first match on Chasms way back. It's funny to see how far I've come since those days. This game is linked so heavily to my early days of gaming and it acts as an introduction to the entire franchise for me, and for that I can't thank it enough. I love Halo Wars and I always will, even if it was incredibly unbalanced. So, if this game sparked my love of the franchise, then the next game I played cemented it. In 2009, I went over to my mate's house again. At this point I finished Halo Wars, I was a big fan of the game. But what my mate was about to introduce me to would change my life forever. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Halo 3. When I first played Halo 3, it was a revelation. I was so used to playing the game from a top-down perspective that it blew my mind when I was in first person. I could use the guns, drive the vehicles I was commanding, punch the aliens I had been fighting in the face. It was mind-blowing for my tiny little mind. Needless to say, I very quickly got my own copy and quickly began playing through the game by myself. I finished the campaign and thought it was the best thing I'd ever experienced. That first scene when Johnson says,
Chief, wait! The Arbiter's with us!
was an incredible moment. Not knowing the events of the previous Halo games made the elites being on our side a legitimate shock to me. The moments in this campaign are incredible. Driving down to Savo Highway on a Warthog, fighting a Scarab for the first time, seeing the Dawn fly into orbit, and of course, that heart-pounding final Warthog run are all moments that I will never forget. Me and my mates would spend so much time playing through this game. We played the campaign on Legendary, completed the Vidmaster Challenge Annual, which at that point was the hardest challenge I had ever completed in the game, and of course, multiplayer. Halo 3's multiplayer is iconic, there is no denying that. The maps are incredible, Valhalla, Sandtrap, Guardian to name a few, and a vast assortment of great and fun maps that this game offered. The game modes added great variety and replayability. The weapons were amazing to use, like the Spartan laser or slamming the gravity hammer down on someone's head. Jumping into vehicles and driving around with your friend in the gunner seat as you mowed down helpless Spartans running away from you. Halo 3's multiplayer's main focus is what all multiplayers should be focused on: fun. This is the multiplayer I have had the most fun playing, hands down. But it's so much more with the Forge mode. Forge was an incredible customization tool that was so interesting to me. I would spend hours designing my own maps on a new sandbox map, just messing around and building to my heart's content. And of course, the music. The music. Halo 3 has an incredible masterclass of a soundtrack. The music gives moments in the campaign so much more epicness or sadness that other single player campaigns just can't match. There is not a single aspect of this game I do not love. Everything came together to create one of the most amazing experiences I have ever played. To this day, Halo 3 stands above everything else as my all-time favourite video game, and I doubt that will ever change. It was the game that showed me how amazing video games could truly be, and my love for the series was now firmly planted. But sadly, my time on the multiplayer came to an end, along with most. As times move on, new games emerge, and these games are left behind, but are never forgotten. But before we move on, we still have more to talk about when it comes to Halo 3. ODST. I can't think about this game without getting hit with a massive wave of nostalgia. This was the first Halo game release that I was present for. I watched the trailer, the demo, every single bit of advertisement possible. This was the first game I was hyped to get. ODST is what I like to call a mellow experience. The game never reaches the massive heights of the other games, but it's not supposed to. It's a smaller story centered around the character of the Rookie and his ODST squad. Playing through the game, I can't help but feel Bungie wanted to expand the game further and add more features, but were probably pressed for time. The game we got, however, it's pretty darn good. Immediately, I want to praise the atmosphere of this game. Walking through Mombasa streets in the dark and the rain is so atmospheric, and the soundtrack, of course, just emphasizes that. The music in this game is gorgeous. The smooth jazz perfectly enhances the experience to incredible heights. The streets of Mombasa themselves are great to explore. It's great when Halo uses levels as a sandbox, allowing players to explore and progress at their own pace. This is something that I'm hoping Halo Infinite will implement with its massive scale Halo overworld. Finding all the clues to your squad's whereabouts and playing through the flashbacks make you feel like you missed a party and truly makes the rookie feel alone in his situation. I had a blast playing through this campaign and it was great fun playing with my friends. But there was something new that ODST introduced that would be a revelation for me and my friends.
Welcome to New Mombasa. Bam! This is Firefight.
Firefight was incredible. Ever since Horde mode was introduced in Gears 2, several games were copying the survival formula. Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead, and now Halo. But Halo added a twist, with not just the enemies getting tougher with each wave, but the introduction of skulls being added. This made the mode incredibly hard and sometimes frustrating. But that's why it was so much fun, because it was challenging. I will never forget the times me and my mates would jump onto the Wildlife Preserve firefight map and try our best to survive all the sets fighting incredibly difficult enemies where we were all low on ammo. It was chaos, but fun. Not to mention, this game also released with a separate disc that included a complete Halo 3 multiplayer experience, with the original maps and map packs. I can continue to dive into multiplayer and have a great time, but there were still Halo games out there that I had yet to play. But that would change very quickly. It is truly shocking to me how long it took me to finally play the OG Halo. The game that essentially redefined FPS games for the console is something I genuinely think any gamer should play at least once in their lifetime. I bought a version of Halo CE off the Xbox 360 store and played it through with great enjoyment. Playing through the Master Chief's first story was truly a marvel. Seeing the beginnings of the story that would eventually lead to the finale of Halo 3 was truly an awe-inspiring experience. The level design is fantastic. Wide open levels like Halo and the Silent Cartographer give players a sense of freedom that was unmatched for the time. On the other end, you get claustrophobic levels like 343 Guilty Spark, which brilliantly sets up the flood and changes the entire tone of the game. This game is truly a benchmark in gaming, and playing it now makes me wish I could go back in time and tell my 6-year-old self to get an Xbox and start playing Halo. I could have made some incredible memories, but alas, that is not the case. Halo CE is great, but what I would experience next would blow me away. This was the Halo game that I was most anticipated to play, as Halo 2 essentially serves as a big setup to the Halo 3 story. I would finally get to see how the Arbiter and the Elites were on our side now. I just want to straight up say it, this is my favourite campaign story out of all the Halo games. It was more complex and involved than any of the other Halo stories. An interweaving narrative told from the perspective of both the Chief and the new badass, the Arbiter. This campaign has given us something which we have not seen in any other Halo game, the perspective from the Covenant. We are always playing as humanity in the other games, and the Covenant are essentially just the big bad guys. In this game, however, we see how they operate, how the hierarchy works. We see the Prophet ruling over with religious power, with the Prophet of Truth at the top, who, in my eyes, is one of the great video game villains. The cutscenes with him are my absolute favourite, and makes me wish we could have more from the Covenant side. The level design is top notch. The streets in New Mombasa are designed so well with small alleyways and destroyed buildings. Delta Halo is gorgeous with lush jungles, aesthetic and gorgeous visuals. The campaign is truly great, and I wish more people would recognise its greatness. Sadly, that's all I can really talk about, as I was never truly able to play the Halo 2 multiplayer. Something which I shall regret for my entire life is not being able to experience the truly groundbreaking multiplayer that defined Xbox Live when it first launched. I've managed to experience it on the MCC, but I imagine it would have felt better playing it all those years ago. Truly upsetting. But hey, at least I got to enjoy the story and play through that over and over again as much as I want. Halo 2 is truly an awesome game, but Bungie's time with the franchise was set in, and they would end it all with one last hurrah. Even before ODST was out, the Halo fanbase was getting hyped for Reach. We were teased that the game would be coming out in 2010, and I was getting excited. Bungie announced this as their last Halo game before they would move on to other projects, that being Destiny, so I couldn't wait to see what Bungie had in store for us. But long before its release, we got the multiplayer beta. Anyone who got a copy of ODST could jump into the beta, and let me just say, I spent every waking moment I had on that beta. I could not stop playing it. Seeing all these new things, jetpacks and sprints, new weapons and brand new game modes like Invasion was all incredible to experience. It got me hyped even more for the game, and I was truly sad when the beta ended. Flash forward to the game's release and I could not stop playing this game. I finished the campaign, which I enjoyed. It never reached the heights of Halo 3 or 2, but there were still some great moments, like making a full-on assault on the Covenant in Tip of the Spear and flying in space using the Saber. All the Easter eggs and little winks to the other Halo games found within the campaign were greatly appreciated and acted as a farewell to the universe for Bungie. The multiplayer was where things really got interesting. The launch maps were fine, taking locations from the campaign was an odd choice, but most maps were really fun. The standout, however, had to be the Spire for one of my absolute favourite game modes, Invasion. I was spending nearly all my time just playing this one incredibly fun mode. Now, yes, armor abilities were a controversial choice, especially things like armor lock and sprint, which is still debated to this day, but these never really bothered me as much as others. The customization in this game was truly amazing. Earning credits from games or daily challenges and using them to purchase new armor was a perfect system. No loot boxes, no microtransactions. If you wanted your Spartan to look like a badass, you had to put the work in and play as much as you could. Speaking of customization, let's talk about Forge. When I saw the Forge demo before launch, I was blown away. The amount of freedom that the game allowed was amazing, and it could all be done on the single best map Halo had ever had, Forge World. I loved creating new maps and just messing around with the Forge tool. Everything came together in this game to create a truly great ending for Bungie's legacy. Reach marked the end of the era for Halo, and sadly, the end of Halo 3's time as well. The multiplayer for Halo 3 became quite sparse, and it's a sad sight to see. I will always treasure the moments I had on this game and the other Bungie made Halo games, and will continue to return to them for the amazing campaign experiences. But everything would change with the arrival of a new trailer in 2011.
I'm here.
Now here's a title that makes Halo fans wince when you mention it. Halo 4. The first major Halo game not made by Bungie, but instead 343 Industries. This was to be the continuation of Master Chief's story along with Cortana. In E3 2011, we got our first teaser trailer, sending the fandom into hysterical fits of excitement. Halo 4 was real, and it was coming. It would be another year until we finally got our hands on the game, and it was very clear that things had changed in Halo. Now, to give my initial thoughts on the game quickly before talking about all the little details, I enjoyed my time with Halo 4. When a story focused on Chief and Cortana, it's fantastic. Focusing on these two and the connection they have was the right choice. The rest of it, however, was not great. The Didact was not a great villain with what was presented. The didact shown in the terminals and the additional lore is great, it adds more layers to him, but none of that is shown in the story. The Prometheans are annoying, much more annoying than the Flood, and the missions aren't particularly that memorable. Infinity is pretty good, if a little long, but the Forerunner architecture gets repetitive and boring during the last missions. Now, a big talking point for this game is the art style. I haven't talked about the art style in the other games, so I'll just say Halo has always had an amazing look. The armor, weapons and vehicles during the Bungie era games have always looked amazing. 343 decided to change it up both here and 5, and I'm not a fan. The armor has always looked pretty bad, and some of the design changes for the Covenant just do not look good. It's not as bad in Halo 4, but I'll talk about it more when I get to Halo 5. Now on the multiplayer side, things get a little complicated. Halo 4's multiplayer was pretty fun, but it never had the same feeling as Halo 3. There weren't many maps that stood out apart from Haven and Exile. A big controversy were the ordnance drops, which you could call in and would give you some random weapons. I didn't mind this so much, but I understand why people didn't like it. Having loadouts was also a bad choice, and the customizations options for the armor took a step back from the amazing system from Reach. I spent a lot of time on Halo 4's multiplayer, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I did with 3 or Reach. And then there's Spartan Ops, this game's replacement for Firefight, and it wasn't as good. Spartan Ops had a progressive story told throughout the missions, with some things leading directly into Halo 5's story, but I hardly remember any of it. It just wasn't as fun as jumping into Firefight and surviving all those rounds of Covenant. Halo 4 is a mixed bag of some good and bad things. 343 did the best they could with their first Halo outing, but little did I know, things were about to get so much worse. Now, before we get into the big bad of the series, let's talk about the Master Chief Collection. When this was first announced, you better believe I was hyped. Having Halo CE 2 and 3 together on the next gen console was everything I ever dreamed of. First, let's talk about the main attraction, Halo 2 Anniversary. It looked incredible, and those new cutscenes by Blur Studios, god, those things are gorgeous to watch. It played the exact same way and kept the feeling of Halo 2, so not much to complain about there. The main thing to complain about was the multiplayer. I called this long before the game's release. The game had 5 multiplayer engines all working at once. Of course there were going to be issues. Many people got angry, and rightfully so. I was just enjoying the campaigns too much to get angry at the multiplayer. It was bad at launch for sure, but there have been several improvements over the years, and the game is in a much better state. I'm just happy we now have 6 Halo games all together in one package. That's just crazy. It's a great way to get into the series, and I highly recommend everyone to get it and experience the incredible story if you haven't yet. Now so far, I've praised nearly all of these Halo games. I've gushed about my love for the series and how much it means to me. At this point, it's safe to say I adore these games and feel strongly about the franchise. Keep that in mind when I talk about Halo 5, because I have a lot to say about this game. I think it would be easier to list the things I like about this game. It's a surprisingly short list. Number 1. Warzone. Warzone was fun for the first few times playing it. A massive multiplayer mode that could use all the unique types of vehicles and weapons you obtained from rec packs. I can't deny how fun this mode is. Number 2. Super Fiesta. Hands down the funnest mode I've ever played. Like normal Fiesta, you start off with random weapons, but it included all the wacky weapons from Warzone. You get gravity armors that send shockwaves, you can get the Halo CE pistol and the Halo 2 battle rifle. All these weapon variants make the mode highly replayable and fun. It's basically the only reason I go back to play Halo 5. Number 3. I like the new fuel rod cannon design. It looks good. At this point I'm struggling to find things to like. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about what I don't like. Basically everything else. The campaign was terrible, the story was awful, and none of the levels stood out. That sense of mystery and epicness from the other games is completely lost here, and it's a chore to play through this story. The new designs of armor, weapons and vehicles all suck. The new armor looks awful with some of the worst designs I've ever seen in a Halo game. I truly hate the design of all Covenant vehicles. I don't know what it is, but it looked like something out of Warframe, and it doesn't work in Halo. Some of the weapon redesigns are just awful, especially the rocket launcher. That thing makes me sick. Standard multiplayer was also something I never gelled with. I don't remember any of the maps, and I don't like any of these new abilities like Soldier Charge and Ground Pound. Halo should be simple, and they put too much emphasis on designing maps around these new movement style the game has. Overall, Halo 5 made me more angry and disappointed with what 343 were doing with the series, and any excitement I had for the next game was just gone. The campaign ended in a way that did not have me anticipating how the next game would conclude its story. Luckily, it looks like 343 are learning from the mistakes they made and are changing a lot of things for the next installment. And I think there is one game in the series that we can all thank for the direction the franchise is heading towards. The latest Halo game released back in 2017. Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it? I had been waiting for Halo Wars 2 ever since I finished the first game. And I just want to say how great is it that I started this video with Halo Wars and ending it with Halo Wars 2. That's just nice. So, Halo Wars 2, how was it? Well, pretty good. I would say a worthy sequel to the first game. We get to see the return of old characters like Cutters and Anders, and we are introduced to the new enemy, the Banished. The Banished are a separate group from the Covenant, made up of banished forces led by Atriox, a massive brute who is a great villain. I love the look of the Banished vehicles. Swapping out the traditional blue and purple for the red works really well. All the vehicles have big pieces of metal armor. This is exactly what I expect to see from brutes. The story was good, with the Spirit of Fire fighting on the Ark against the Banished. I enjoyed my time with it greatly. The art style changed back to the way it looked in 2 and 3, and I'm so happy they went back to this style. The UNSC forces look great once again. They made the experience more balanced, which means that playing as the Covenant is now a viable option as the units are tougher, unlike the first game where you basically just built 2 Scarabs and nothing else. I feel a lot of the decisions in this game, along with the reaction to Halo 5, have led 343 to rethink how the next Halo game would play, and I'm hoping to see good things coming from Infinite. After Halo 5, my hype for the franchise had reached rock bottom, and I was not looking forward to the next installment. Even after the E3 demo for Halo Infinite back in 2019, I wasn't getting my hopes up just to have them crushed again. But after the demo shown in 2021, along with the multiplayer, I can safely say I am once again looking forward to Halo's return, and hopefully it will be a return to form and will reignite my love for the franchise. Looking back on these games, it's clear to me how much of an impact they have had on my life. Halo 3 stands as my favourite game of all time, and the franchise has sparked my love for gaming. Sure, it's had its ups and downs, but many big franchises do. Just because I don't like the aspects of one game, it doesn't take away my feelings for another game. I can go back and play through the first 3 games and have an amazing time with the campaigns, but I can skip stories I don't particularly enjoy playing through. Halo is a franchise that I do not see any signs of ending anytime soon. But even if it did, no one can take away the great memories I have had with the games and the effect it has had on my life. And for that, I thank these games and the developers for giving us something truly amazing. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I had a great time making it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Let me know your thoughts on the franchise in the comments down below and how you got into the games. Leave a like and share the video, and hopefully I will see you all in Infinite.